A deadly attack on the Chechen parliament has dealt a severe blow to Russia, as it claims it has imposed stability in this country. So would Moscow change its course in dealing with the Chechen issue? And who is calling the shots, Medvedev or Putin? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Abdelhamid. A brazen attack on Chechenya's parliament. On Tuesday, armed separatists stormed the building in the capital Grozny. Within hours, at least 6 people were reported dead. Russian news reports said at least 2 attackers blew themselves up and another was killed in an exchange of fire. Nicole Johnson reports.
Here, Grozny's security forces are trying to bring a brazen attack on their parliament building under control. In the end, they succeeded within a few hours. On Tuesday morning, gunmen attacked security guards outside the parliament. A number of the guards were killed. The fighters then seized the building. There are unconfirmed reports that some hostages were taken. Shooting continued inside the parliament, and it appears more people were killed. The parliamentary speaker, Dukov Abdurrahmanov, escaped unharmed and was led away by troops to Chechen President Kadyrov, waiting inside the car. But the crisis was soon over, while the heavy military presence remains. Even though the war with separatist rebels in Chechnya officially ended 10 years ago, the unrest has continued. And fighting has spread to other parts of the North Caucasus, like Dagestan and Ingushetia. Last year, Russia ended its long counterinsurgency operation in Chechnya. The Kremlin handed over full authority of the region to President Kadyrov, trusting him to rebuild the country. He's also built up a large militia, which activists accuse of abuse and heavy-handedness. But the area is still home to Islamist rebels committed to fighting the pro-Kremlin leadership authorities. And there may be a new split in the highly factionalized movement. This month, there have been reports that Hussein Gakayev has formed his own group after breaking away from Chechen separatist leader Dokmurov. This incident clearly focused on a political rather than a civilian target. And for the Kremlin, it's an embarrassing incident aimed at challenging its authority in Chechnya. Nicole Johnston, Al Jazeera.
Well, joining our discussion today are our guests. In Moscow, Alexei Mashenko, a Caucasus expert at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. And in Amman, Mohammad Shishani, Vice President of the World Chechen Congress. And in London, Russia and Central Asia expert at IHS Global Insight, Lilith Gevorgyan. Welcome to the show. Now, Mohammad Shishani, let me start with you. An attack in the parliament, is it seen as a direct attack to the rule of the president?
Definitely it is, and it is a manifestation that the claims that the war in Chechnya is over are false. The war is continuing, and the rebels and the freedom fighters are still waging daily attacks throughout Chechnya. So President Kadyrov has been claiming that the war has ended and the armed resistance have been controlled, and there are only about 50 rebels roaming the mountains of Chechnya, and this disproves that claim. The rebels are every place. When I say rebels, we mean the freedom fighters that oppose the rule of Russia in Chechnya.
Well, Alexei Mashenko, how is this attack viewed in Russia? I mean, it is an attack at the heart of Moscow's power in that region, isn't it?
Well, I think it's a strike on Putin personally because he has private relations with Ramzan Kadyrov. He trusts Ramzan Kadyrov, and Ramzan Kadyrov promised not only to Russia, not only to Russian society, but personally to Putin that finally he will put an end to the war in Chechnya. And he failed because at the moment we discuss about the problem of parliament, about the problem of today, but don't forget that this year, 2010, we've got so many terrorist acts everywhere, and in Chechnya, in Northern Caucasus, and even in Moscow. So I totally agree when my colleague says that war continue, latent, a civil war.
Well, Lily Gevorgyan, the war continues. Putin might have an ally in the Chechen president, but what does this attack really reveal at the security forces in that area about what could happen in the next few weeks or months?
Well, I think, as the previous speaker said, this was definitely an attack, first of all, at Chechen President Ramzan Kadyrov. This is the second one that is symbolic attack, because today the militants, they went on, not on a military mission really, but it was a suicide mission, and they achieved what they wanted. They attracted attention, and they revealed that despite all the talk that there is concerted effort to prop up the security, Parliament is even vulnerable. And let's remember that only 2 months ago they even attacked the hometown of Kadyrov, just to show how defiant they are and how vulnerable Kadyrov and his regime remains in Chechnya.
Well, Mohammad Shishani, now, okay, the attacks are direct attacks on Ramzan Kadyrov, but how do the Chechen people actually look at these attacks?
Well, the opinion is split. There are some supporters of Ramzan Kadyrov in Chechnya, and there are people who oppose his regime. There are many people in Chechnya that support the independence of Chechnya, but they are forced to stay silent, because if there is any opposition to the rule of Kadyrov, it is crushed by brutal force, and the jails are full of people who disagree with him, and even with people who are related to the freedom fighters are being their human rights grossly violated and put in jail, tortured, imprisoned, and in some cases even killed. So this is a direct manifestation that the people in Chechnya want freedom for their people. They don't want an imposed regime. Kadyrov has promised that he will bring in peace to Chechnya, but where is the peace? You know, if there are daily attacks throughout Chechnya and throughout the North Caucasus, in fact, in Dagestan, in Ingushetia, Kabardino-Balkaria, there are attacks every day. You know, there is no solution for this problem until the Russian leadership realizes that peace is the only way to solve the Chechen problem, and the Russian leadership have to sit with the proponents of independence in Chechnya and start talks and end this peacefully and live next to each other as two independent countries, Chechnya, Chechen English, Chechen Republic of Ichkeria, and the Russian Federation.
Well, I do want to talk later about how difficult it is to reach a political settlement, but I also want to ask Alexei Malashenko, what is Russia's plan now? I mean, it appears that it did build a very strong man, it's backing a very strong man in Chechnya, a man who has managed to rally warlords behind him, a man who now has his own militia. Is that really the best option for Russia to keep Chechnya under control?
Well, I apologize, but I disagree with my colleague when he speaks about freedom, about independence. I visited Chechnya a lot of times, during First War, Second War, or after wars, between wars, and I'm responsible for my words, for what I will tell. I believe that the majority of Chechen society, majority of Chechens, were against all kind of independence, because to be with Russia for them was and is at the moment, by the way, much more comfortable than to be independent. Why? Because mostly money are going to Chechnya from federal budget. It's very important. Besides, I don't know if somebody, for instance, in Europe and even in the Muslim world are ready to accept independence of Chechnya. But the key problem is that maybe the half of the population, I don't know because nobody counted it, but a big piece of the population, a big part of Chechen population are against some regime of Ramzan Kadyrov. Well, there is a lot of reasons. Of course, if I say that half of the population is against Ramzan, the second half, of course, supports him. So there is a split inside Chechen society. That's some real true. But I think that Ramzan Kadyrov did a mistake when he attempted to create a semi or a quasi-totalitarian regime in Chechnya. The political culture of Chechen society is based on the principle of consensus, of unity of different clans. It was before Ramzan, it was even in the time, at the moment when Ramzan wants to be a absolute totalitarian ruler, it is his big mistake. That's why a part of the population support those who are in the mountains, in the forest, and that's why I can say that his popularity began to go down. As to Russia, as to Russian federal administration, federal power, well, I think that still they didn't find a normal solution. They didn't find a normal option for the peace, for the security and stability in not only in Chechnya, but in general in the North Caucasus, and it's a big problem for Russia.
Well, Lilith Gevorgyan, I mean, now we have Ramzan Bakirov that at least half of the population describes as a dictator. We have him telling Moscow all the time that the situation is under control and then being terribly embarrassed. He's going to have to take some action at some point. What do you think he's going to be doing?
Well, to be honest, I think it's quite unfair to sort of leave this mammoth task with Ramzan Kadyrov only. And when you talk about the separatist movement in Chechnya, this was probably the reality in the beginning of the 2000s, but at the moment the movement has morphed into more Islamist-oriented movement that aspires to join not only Chechnya but neighboring Dagestan, Ingushetia, and all the predominantly Muslim republics of North Caucasus. So the nature of the issue has changed. To expect that Ramzan Kadyrov can make a massive difference in Chechnya alone is not really realistic, and it would be extremely unfair from the Kremlin's perspective to expect that this 34-year-old president can bring changes. I certainly agree that propping up one clan over the others is the best solution, and after the war, probably for a short period of time when they wanted, when the federal government wanted stability, probably Kadyrov was the best solution. However, it was not followed up by actions from the Kremlin together with Kadyrov. Kadyrov does not have the capacity, he's not equipped with the skills and the economic potential to bring changes. In fact, I doubt if he has any viable plan to change the country, so Chechnya. So to my mind, he will just continue to be as heavy-handed as he can, and if it completely fails and most of the republic's population revolts against him, then in the best case scenario, Kremlin would remove him and replace with someone who is more or less similar to Kadyrov.
Well, since the fall of the Soviet Union, the Chechens have fought 2 wars against the Russians, claiming tens of thousands of lives. In addition, several attacks on Russian soil have been attributed to the Chechens.